Chapter 4. The worst news of the century. I wasn't surprised that our first hour in Maine was a disaster. I knew if Sheila Tubman was involved, it would be. I begged Mom and Dad to leave right after Dad scrubbed Turtle with a special shampoo called Skunk. But by then, hamburgers were cooking on the grill, so I begged them to leave right after supper. But they wouldn't listen. "Don't say I didn't warn you," I told them. "I guess we're willing to take our chances," Dad said. "Now let's get some sleep. It's been a long day." We carried our bags through the inside door separating our house from Sheila's, but on the other side there was just a staircase leading to 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. "This is it?" I said. "This is our house?" "Yes," Mom said. "Isn't it nice?" "Where's the living room?" I asked. "Where's the kitchen?" "We're sharing the living room and kitchen with the Tubmans," Dad said. "Sharing?" I could hardly get the word out. "We're sharing with the Tubmans?" "Learn to share," Fudge said, "and you'll be a very happy person." "Don't give me any of your kindergarten philosophy," I told him. "This is serious." Philosophy's like an idea. What you believe. Okay, let's see. Upstairs, Mom and Dad looked over the 3 bedrooms. They chose the one with the double bed for themselves. The second bedroom had a single bed plus a crib. Grandma would share that with Tootsie, which left the smallest bedroom for Fudge and me. "You two should be comfortable in here," Dad said. I looked around. There were 2 camp beds so close together you could kick the person in the other bed. That should be useful if Fudge talks in his sleep, I thought. There was also a lamp and a low chest with 2 drawers, and the ceiling sloped on one side of the room, so when I stood up straight, I banged my head on it. "Well, what about when Jimmy comes?" I asked Mom. "We'll work it out," she said. "Don't worry." But how could I not worry? At least Mom was able to convince Fudge that Uncle Feather would be happier downstairs. "We'll put his cage in front of the picture window in the living room so he can watch what's happening," she said. "Suppose he has a bad dream?" Fudge said. "Does he usually have bad dreams?" Mom asked, as if Fudge were an expert. "Sometimes he dreams of scary monsters," Fudge said, "especially if he has to sleep all alone in a strange place. Sometimes he... excuse me. Sorry, guys. When you cover his cage, he won't know he's in a strange place," I said. "Oh, he'll know," Fudge said. "He is a very well-adjusted bird," I argued. "He'll be fine." I wasn't about to share a room with Fudge and Uncle Feather. Even Fudge was too tired to argue. "Okay," he said, yawning. Then he flopped on his bed and was out cold before I turned off the light. We went to town the next afternoon. The gears on Dad's bikes were stuck, so he dropped it off at Bicycle Bob's shop for repairs. Bicycle Bob is a big, friendly guy who wears a t-shirt that says, "I'd rather be biking." Then we went to Sawyer's Market for groceries and to the library to get our cards and to Oz Books, where Fudge and I each got 2 paperbacks. After that, we headed for the airport. Grandma's plane was right on time. As soon as we got home, she shook hands with each of the Tubmans and said, "Call me Muriel." Then she turned 4 cartwheels on the front lawn. I could tell the Tubmans were impressed. "Muriel," Sheila called, chasing Grandma. "Could you teach me to turn cartwheels?" "I don't see why not," Grandma said, breathing hard. "I ran a gymnastics camp for years." "Oh, I'd just love to turn cartwheels," Sheila gushed. "My friend Mouse Ellis can turn cartwheels." "You have a friend named Mouse?" I asked. "Mouse, mice, creepy crawly lice," Fudge sang, pleased with his rhyme. "Fudgy," Sheila scolded. "That's not exactly nice." Then she turned back to me with her hands on her hips. "My friend Mouse is coming here in 10 days. "But that's when Jimmy Fargo's coming." I heard my voice crack, but I didn't care. "Jimmy Fargo's coming here?" Sheila's voice sounded funny, too. "Yeah, for a week, at least." "That's the worst news of the century," Sheila cried. "The worst news of the century," Fudge said, doing a perfect imitation of Sheila. "The worst news of this century." "Stop that, Fudgy." Sheila picked him up and shook him. "Is that any way to treat your future husband?" I asked. "Yeah," Fudge said. "Mommy never shakes Dad." We're never getting married if you act that way, Sheila told him. Say you're sorry or the wedding's off. Are you going to let her boss you around like that? I asked Fudge. Just stay out of this, Peter, Sheila said. Yeah, Pete, Fudge said. Fine, I told him. You want to cook your own goose? Go ahead. Fudge started laughing. I don't have a goose, Pete. Chapter 5. Uncle Feather's Adventure. The next day when I got up, Fudge's bed was empty. He doesn't know you're supposed to sleep late when you're on vacation. I pulled on my jeans, which I'd left on the floor. They felt cold and damp. I forgot about the sloped ceiling until I stood up and whacked my head. That made me so mad I kicked the wall. So before the day even started, I had a bump on my head and a pain in my foot. As I pulled on my sweatshirt, I heard foghorns in the distance. I took a look out the window. Nothing but white. We were completely fogged in. I hope Grandma's making cocoa, I thought, on my way downstairs. She likes to get up early. She says at her age you really appreciate morning and there's no point in wasting it. So I wasn't surprised to hear her laughing as I came through the inside door. The kitchen and the living room are really one big room with a stone fireplace in the center. Fuzzy Sr. was having breakfast with Grandma. They'd really hit it off last night. At supper, they laughed so hard you'd have thought they were old friends. At the same time, Grandma was trying to feed Tootsie oatmeal, but Tootsie likes to feed herself, so she grabbed the spoon out of Grandma's hand and wound up with a blob of oatmeal in her hair. Pee, Tootsie said when she spotted me. You have to go potty? Grandma asked, as if Tootsie is toilet trained, which she definitely is not. She's trying to say Pete, Fudge explained. He was at the table counting Cheerios. He counts out exactly 200 before he starts to eat. It takes forever because half the time he gets his numbers mixed up. Mom says it's just another phase and he'll get over it. He better or he'll never make it to school on time. Then Sheila walks in wearing a pink fuzzy robe and bunny slippers. You think she'd be embarrassed to be seen that way, but I guess nothing embarrasses the Cootie Queen. When Jimmy finds out he has to see her first thing in the morning, he'll be on the next plane back to New York. Sheila opened all the windows in the living room on her way to the table. What are you doing, Sheila? Grandma asked. You're freezing us out. I can't stand the smell, Sheila said. It's a Maine smell, Fuzzy Sr. said. It's the dampness and the mildew. Doggy dew is more like it, Sheila said. Maybe your dog goes inside, but my dog doesn't, I told her. Close the windows, Sheila, please, Grandma said. The baby could catch a chill. Sheila muttered to herself, excuse me. When you mutter, it's like kind of under your breath, like that. Sheila muttered to herself, but she closed the windows. When she got to the one in front of Uncle Feather's cage, she peered inside and said, Where's your bird, Fudge? What do you mean? I asked. I mean, Uncle Feather's not in his cage, Sheila said. I looked over at Fudge, but he kept counting his Cheerios. 82, 83. His bird is gone? I asked. Yes, Sheila said. Gone. As in not present. As in disappeared from view. I jumped up from the table and ran over to Uncle Feather's cage. Sheila was right. Uncle Feather was definitely not present. I looked back at Fudge, who kept counting his Cheerios. 84, 85. Where's Uncle Feather? I asked him. Someplace nice, he said. 86. What does that mean? I said. I'm trying to count. I'm waiting for an answer, I told him. So was everyone else. Finally, Fudge looked up from his Cheerios. He was bored. He wanted to come out of his cage. You let him out of his cage? I couldn't believe this. Just for a little while. He started counting again. 52, 53. Go get him, I said. First, I'll have my cereal. Oh, no, you won't, I told him. First, you'll get your bird. Grandma, Fudge said in his best little boy voice. But Grandma didn't fall for it. Go get your bird, Fudge. Your cereal will wait. Fuzzy Sr. and Grandma exchanged a long look as Fudge ran out of his room and headed up the stairs on the Tubman's side of the house. Then they laughed. But I didn't see anything funny. I sat down and, alright, that's been 10 minutes. I sat down and buttered a piece of toast. In a couple of minutes, Fudge was back. He's not there. Not where? I asked. Not where I left him. Where did you leave him? I can't tell, but he's not there anymore. Hey, yo. Oh, you'll see my puppy. She's so cute. Say hello. Say hello, second grade. Oh, she's super sleepy. Isn't she cute? Oh, look how cute she is. You are so cute. Yeah. Anyway, back to the book. I looked over at Sheila. Well, how was I supposed to know his bird wasn't in its cage? She said. You open the windows everywhere? I asked. Well, yes, because of the smell. I shoved my chair back from the table. Let's not panic, Sheila said, sounding exactly like her father. Let's think this through in a logical way. I've thought it through, I told her. I grabbed my rain jacket from the hook near the front door. Come on, I called to Fudge. Search and rescue, Buzzy Sr. said. That's the spirit. He raised his coffee cup to toast us. I helped Fudge into his new yellow slicker. It's so long it hangs down to the ground, making him look like a little old man with no feet. I stuck the matching hat on his head. Be careful, boys, Grandma called. It's very foggy out there. Wait, Sheila said. I'll get dressed and come with you. Forget it, I told her. You're making a big mistake, she said, because I'm the one who noticed the empty cage. Yeah, and you're the one who opened all the windows. I pushed Fudge out of the door and let it slam behind me. Outside, the fog was so thick you couldn't even see the cars parked in our driveway. It was like standing inside a big white cloud. Where do birds go when it's foggy? Fudge asked. If they're smart, they stay home. We walked along a path through the woods, calling to Uncle Feather. Where are you? We all used his favorite expressions, but he didn't answer. There was no sound except for the foghorn in the distance. Uncle Feather's just playing a game, right? Fudge asked. Let's hope. The path led us down to the water. There were a couple of houses overlooking the harbor, but it was too foggy to see any of the boats. We'll start here, I told Fudge, stopping in front of an old white house with black shutters. We climbed the steps to the front porch. I'll talk, Fudge said. He's my bird. Okay, but don't waste a lot of time. I rang the bell. A woman about Grandma's age came to the door. Have you seen Uncle Feather? Fudge asked, getting right to the point. Uncle who? She said. Uncle Feather, Fudge repeated. Why, no, at least I don't think so. But come in out of that fog and tell me all about him. We followed her to the kitchen. You can call me Mrs. A, she told us. My husband and I live here all year round. Where are you boys staying? Through the woods, Fudge said. We have a swing. Oh, yes, I've noticed the whole gang at that house. There's Mommy and Daddy and Tootsie and Grandma, Fudge said, ticking off names on his fingers. And Buzzy Sr., Sheila, Libby, Mr. and Mrs. Tubman, and Turtle, Jake, Uncle Feather, and me and my brother, Pete. This is Pete, he said, pointing at me. He's not supposed to talk. Mrs. A looked at me. That sore throat is going around, she said. I had it myself last week. What you need is some hot tea with lemon and honey. But before I had the chance to explain that my throat wasn't sore, Fudge made himself comfortable at the kitchen table. Something smells good, he said. Mrs. A set out a plate of cinnamon buns, fresh from the oven, she told him. And I'll bet you could use a nice hot cup of cocoa, too. I could, Fudge said. I didn't have any breakfast. Why, that's terrible, Mrs. A said. On a morning like this, you need a big, hot breakfast. I tugged at the sleeve of Fudge's slicker, reminding him that we didn't have time to waste if we were going to find Uncle Feather. But he ignored me. Mrs. A poured Fudge a cup of hot cocoa. Then she poured me a cup of tea. She stirred in a spoon of honey and squeezed the juice from a lemon wedge. That should fix your sore throat, she said. I didn't tell her that when I'm sick I like Moe's herb tea, or that Fudge's cocoa smelled so good I could feel my mouth watering. There are times when it's better not to say anything. Mrs. A joined us at the table. She helped herself to a cinnamon bun. I can't resist them, she explained, with a guilty look on her face. This is good cocoa, Fudge said, slurping it with a spoon. Thank you, Mrs. A said. Mitzi says my cocoa's the best. Who's Mitzi? Fudge asked. My granddaughter. She's 5. I'm 5 too, Fudge said. Well, you'll have to come by and meet her. She'll be here tomorrow. Okay, Fudge said. I'm getting married soon, but I can still have friends, right? That's right, said Mrs. A. Everybody needs friends. She didn't ask Fudge about getting married. Instead, she watched fascinated as he unwound his cinnamon bun and picked out all the raisins. He piled them up in the corner of his plate. Finally, Mrs. A said, I certainly hope your uncle's not out sailing in this weather. I hope not, too, Fudge said, because he doesn't know how to sail. Oh, dear. He's not even supposed to go outside. This sounds serious, she said. Have you called the police? Not yet, Fudge said. We called the search and rescue team. Are they coming soon? She asked him. They're already here, he told her. That's a relief, she said. What does your uncle look like, in case I see someone who fits his description? He's mostly black with yellow feet and a yellow nose, Fudge said, stuffing the last of the cinnamon bun into his mouth. Mrs. A seemed surprised by Fudge's description. I could tell she was thinking hard. Then her face lit up and she waved her hands around. Oh, I get it. Your uncle's a scuba diver. Does Uncle Feather know how to dive? Fudge asked me. I'm not sure, I said, getting up from the table, but we've really got to go if we're going to find him. When we got to the front door, Mrs. A, sorry guys, this little pup keeps me up a lot at night. I'm very tired. Lost my spot. Y'all know I always do this. Okay, when we got to the front door, Mrs. A took me aside and whispered, Is your uncle all right? Upstairs? She tapped the side of her head in case I didn't get the point. Hard to say, I whispered back. Then I shoved Fudge out the front door. Thanks for the snack. Come back tomorrow, Mrs. A called. Okay, Fudge said. As soon as we were away from the house, I grabbed Fudge by the arm. Why didn't you tell her Uncle Feather's a bird? She knows that, Fudge said. How does she know? Everybody knows Uncle Feather's a bird. No, she thinks he's your uncle. My uncle, Fudge said, laughing. That's really dumb. Right, that's why you should have told her. She thinks there's this guy running around in a black wetsuit with yellow flippers and a yellow face mask. This guy who's a little weird upstairs, and I tapped the side of my head the way that Mrs. A had. And that he's your uncle. Come on, Pete. That's what she thinks. She doesn't know Uncle Feather's a mina bird because you didn't tell her. You have to give the facts. You have to say, my mina bird is missing. He's mostly black with yellow feet and a yellow bill. Not nose, I told him. People have noses. Birds have bills. Get it? She made good cocoa. If you stop for cocoa at everyone's house, we're never going to find him. Never, never. Fudge started crying. That's not going to help. I dragged him along the rocky beach, hoping we'd hear Uncle Feather calling to us. But there was no sound except the waves breaking against the rocks. We went to 3 more houses along the water, and Fudge made it clear that his mina bird was missing. But no one had seen Uncle Feather, although they had promised to keep a lookout for him, so we trudged back to our house. Sheila was watching for us at the living room window. She opened the door. Did you find him? She asked. No, I said. Fudge sniffled. Then he covered his face with his hands and laid down on the floor, still wearing his yellow slicker and rain hat. We were quiet for a while. I guess all 3 of us were thinking about Uncle Feather, alone, lost, and frightened. Suddenly, we heard a piercing scream. Fudge jumped up and grabbed Sheila. I dashed to the hall closet, looking for something to use as a weapon, just in case. But before I could even grab an umbrella, we heard another scream. This time, Sheila and Fudge crawled under the table. Then Libby tore through the house, yelling, Help! There's a bat after me! She raced around the living room. There was more noise and confusion as Libby bumped into furniture and knocked over a lamp. Not that she stopped for a minute. She kept screeching and running in circles. I heard the sound of flapping wings. When I looked up, I saw something black flying after Libby. That's when I realized Libby wasn't the only one screeching. Stop! I shouted. But Libby didn't listen. That's no bat, I yelled as I started running after her. That's Uncle Feather. My bird? Fudge called from under the table. Yes, Turkey Brain, your bird. Fudge and Sheila came out of hiding and joined the chase. It didn't take long before everyone else, this is a long chapter, I'm sorry guys. It didn't take long before everyone else in the house came to see what was happening. Almost done, got a half page. Tootsie, who's a good screecher herself, joined right in. Ee, ee, ee. She screeched as loud as she could, which got Uncle Feather going again. You four are going to have to play more quietly, Mrs. Tubman said. We're not playing, Libby screamed. Ee, ee, ee. Tootsie kept it up. Everybody freeze, Dad shouted. Just freeze where you are. Libby froze. I crashed into her. Fudge crashed into me. Sheila's crashed into Fudge. Uncle Feather flew across the room. He perched on top of his cage and looked over at us. Dum, 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 he called. Then he hopped onto his cage, and Buzzy Sr. closed the door. We untangled ourselves. Sheila looked at me. All's well that ends well, right, Peter? Yeah, Pete, Fudge said. All's well that ends well. Then he turned 2 somersaults and landed in my lap. See you tomorrow.